All right, welcome everybody to the episode of Voices in the Industry. This is your host, Mike Q here. And today we're going to be broadening our horizon. We typically focus on the world of visual effects, but we're going to be broadening that scope to include production and distribution. So joining me today for co-hosting duties, we got my buddy Lucas with us.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
And today we have a special guest guiding us into the world of production and distribution. Today we have Michelle Alexandria join us here today.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Lucas. Hi, everyone.
So, if you don't mind, Michelle, giving everybody a little brief introduction as to who you are and your role in the industry.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be on this podcast. And, I enjoy being on podcasts where we have, the filmmakers listening and learning and just, evolving and just trying to improve ourselves. So what I like to contribute to the film industry is the knowledge that I've obtained. I've been in the industry for close to 25 years, and I primarily produce movies and distribute movies. So I don't usually get involved on the creative side. I let you creators do that. And so, yes, I do go on set and such, but I help, get the film, finance package, who are the lead actors that help, carry the film. And then once the creative side, the directors and the talent and the crew make the movie, and then it goes into post, then I look to get it distributed, whether it's in theaters, on platforms now, and so forth. And then also what I do is I'm a producer's rep. And what that means is I'm not involved in the making of the film, but because I work in the world of distribution, filmmakers, they will hire me, and then I take their film and I get it placed and I find the right home to get it distributed, whether it be on, a streaming platform, or now DVDs are fading out, but, DVD deal or a theatrical deal, depending on how, film is. And so I've been doing that for many years now. And when I started, we didn't have platforms. So it was either, theatrical or DVDs, that was, pretty much it, or YouTube at the end, which was not where you wanted your film to go. So now there's all these different ways that, people can watch a movie, and I look to plug it into those ways and monetize on that so the film does make money. So that is my role. I'm a producer and a distributor, and then on the side, a producer rep. And then also on a fun side, I'm an educator. I do teach film courses, depending on what it might be, like just creating materials to get your film, to attract finance, or, how to work at a film market. I've been going to the film markets for, a few decades. So I just try to give that knowledge, and I wish I had that knowledge when I first started, because then I would have saved a lot of time and money. So that is me.
That's awesome. How exactly did you get your start in the film industry? Is this something that you initially sought to do, or was it, like a career change? And
yeah, it was very organic. I was already an avid moviegoer as a child, so I think that's an element in any one person's history that can be helpful. And you think, well, everybody, goes to the movies and everybody watches them. And actually, no, they don't. And, those are the people I also still try to tap into for them to, buy or rent a movie. But I lived in the movie theater. I was sneaking in the movies at the time. I was 12, and it was zero effort for me to go from one room to the next theater, like to see every screening I could, every movie I could. And I grew up that way. So one of the things that I was really interested in at the end of the movie was the credits. And I would always watch the credits, and I would look at every position, even though I did not understand it. So I wasn't as interested in the person's name as much as what the position was. What did this film require in crew to make this movie that I watched? And so by the time I grew up, I had all this knowledge in my head. Now, you don't need to have that to, get into the industry. It just made it easier in conversation when I initially was on sets and I was working on the sets, and, waking up at 3 a.m. and making sure there was coffee on the set and making sure, everything was ready. It did give me a certain level of respect for this industry. And I knew how much of a business this was, I think that's a hard time for, a lot of filmmakers who they want to get into the entertainment industry, whether it's an actor or any other position. And, you might have the family members that just say, okay, that's not a real job. That's not a real thing. It very much is, it's very much a business. And if you can respect it as so, then, you can kind of make an easier pathway to have some success in it, or, a lot of success in it. So growing up watching movies, then I tripped over in the world of the auto industry. And it started off as a receptionist, which then within 3 months, I became, a person assisting another department in the finance world. I was very comfortable with numbers more than I am with, matching my clothes. So it was that left brain, right brain thing. So, so I got into the world of finance, and ultimately I ended up being a finance manager for a Highline car line for many years. And towards the last 5 years of it, I had someone, really well known in the industry today. He suggested, oh, Michelle, you're always around these movie stars. You're always, out and about with them, which was true. Growing up in Hollywood, I was always in that circle, but it wasn't because I was in the industry. It was just because I was going to that club or this event. And so I was always around them. There was no pictures for that because we didn't have the camera phones back then. But I was doing all of that. And my friend just said, you should get into the industry. And I said, oh, I make a lot of money. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I was making a lot of money for my job in the auto industry, just in my early 20s. So I just thought, wow, why would I leave that, And then I took my friend's advice. I joined an acting school, and it wasn't about the acting school. It was just more about who I was, of when you start something, you finish it. And so there is no end date to an acting school. So I'm just going, and I'm just, and I'm awful as an actor. Oh my God, I'm awful. So, and this school was so good that I went from being the worst to like, even a little bit better, according to other people. I'm like, just, tell me the truth. And in that world of the acting school, I started to, it was kind of a requirement. You got to do extra work. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to get your SAT card. So I'm doing that. But by the way, the school was the Beverly Hills Playhouse. If anybody's interested, I was there for many years. It's a fantastic school. And they were just very firm in their structure, which was very comforting to me. And so over the years of, doing a little film here and there, and I get a one-liner here, there was this part of me that just felt like, this acting thing is not, it's not me. It's not, I'm reading somebody else's lines in front of a lens, and that's not me. It's not who I am. So a few different times I was thinking, well, why doesn't that crew member just, get the bounce and put it over there with the light there? And I'm thinking all these things. And why doesn't the cameraman just do that? And they have 2 cameras. Why don't they just do that? And then finally, I started to speak up on certain things on sets where I would just say that. And they were like, who is this girl? She's the actress in the music video. And I just said, well, you only have 13 minutes left before the sun goes down, and you need to capture this. So why don't you just be more efficient? And there's 4 of you, so just do that. And I just remember the look on their faces, and I'm like, oh, I crossed the line, sorry. And then they did that. They're like, oh my God, the dumb actress, rescued us. Okay. They were actually very nice, but it was just, I just realized that was more of my comfort. And then there was a few times where I was an extra and they would use my car, and I had a Jaguar. And so, I'm in my early 20s at the time. Again, I was doing very well. And I remember the second AD of a very big TV show, one of the NCISs, and he just said, how do you have this car and you're an extra? And I said, well, it's not like I was born and I became an extra. I mean, I do have another life. And I just thought, wow, is that how we're perceived? And I thought, well, that's really interesting, because for me, this was film school. I'm getting paid as an extra. They're using my car in the shot, and I get to watch all of this. So there was this period of time where I did so much extra work, and I went on sets with Bruce Willis, and John Travolta, Adam Sandler. You name it, I'm on sets with all of them, but I was very, very quiet. I would notice, other people in holding, which is where all the extras were, and they're talking about how they were the next James Dean, but then this happened, or, I'm hearing all this, and I just sat very quiet. And one day I was sitting and holding on the set of 6 Feet Under, a TV series. And I was at the Cat and the Fiddle on Sunset Boulevard. And I just brought a book. I sat there and I waited. And everybody else, they're doing their talking, but I always sat close to the door. And then one of the ADs came in and I saw her scan the room. And I made eye contact with her and she looked at me. And then she said, "Come with me." She took me to wardrobe. They found a waitress uniform that was fitting to me. I was very petite at the time. And then they put me on the set with the main cast, which I didn't know them because I didn't know the show. And I'm pouring the water as the waitress. And then the director gave me a line. And that was my first SAG voucher. And I thought, okay, this is how it works. So you can either get lucky, or you can keep pursuing until opportunity finds you, but you put yourself in the right place at the right time. So then I got the next SAG voucher on another film and the next SAG voucher. My second SAG voucher was on, what is it called? Dodgeball with Ben Stiller, I think.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I negotiated with them. They wanted my brother, who is, Mr. Fitness California. He's been recognized publicly. And they wanted him in the shot, and he's in the opening shot. And then I said, well, if I bring my brother, will I get a SAG voucher? And they said, yeah, we'll put you in one of the... And so before I knew it, now I'm in SAG, which was very monumental at the time. This is before the SAG-AFTRA merger. And that's how it started on that pathway, So it checked some of those boxes. Now, am I trying to be an actress? Not really. That wasn't really my comfort zone. It took a lot just for me to be on the podcast. I'm like, oh my God, I got to brush my hair and all, it's like, how am I going to ever be an actress? I'm not comfortable like that, which the actresses and actors who are, that's why they are successful actors and actresses, because they are comfortable with that, which is great. And that's what we look for when we're casting, is people who are just so comfortable in front of the camera that they're just natural. So then I had a friend of mine just say, "Oh, Michelle, let's produce a play." And I just said, "Oh, I have no idea what that means. I don't know what producing anything means." And she said, "Well, let's just try, to do this play together." And so I started, using my little efficiency skills that I do in my finance world. And at the end of that play, at the end of the run, the director of the play and the cast, we all had our standing ovation. Everything was great. And then one of them called me out and said, "And then this young lady right here, she did this, and that." And I thought, oh my God. Okay, I wasn't expecting that, but it was just keeping the production of this play as best as it could be. It was a North Hollywood play. And then that's when a couple of those people said, "Let's do a short film." And I just thought, okay, well, why not just do a feature film? And we started doing that. And, the hardest part is getting the money, but it wasn't that hard for me because I think it was how I would pitch. And so how I was trying to find money was very different from how I noticed everyone else was trying to find money. And money is still very hard for me to find. I'm not there yet. I have not mastered it yet. I'm not making the next Titanic, but I have made well over 20 to 30 films. And the biggest thing, which is an important thing for the audience to listen to right now, is that when you're pitching your project, do not ask for money to boost your career. Do not try to sell them on how great this script is, and this is the next Godfather, and this is the next Star Wars. Be very careful, because you are begging for money. You are asking someone to give you money to make your life better. What you want to do is present to them an opportunity. This is how, sir, ma'am, I'm going to make your life better. You have an opportunity to invest in this film. And these are all the steps we are taking to ensure you not only make your money back, but you make more, and you are part of this. So do not beg to boost your career. Present to them the opportunity. I haven't coined that phrase well, but I explain it over the years, and it's still very hard. I've learned through my own self that, I have no exceptional talent. I don't have a family member in the industry who got me in. There's nothing. It's just, I just kept doing it that way and going and going and going. And I always tell myself, at some point I'm going to have to find another job, like a real job that's going to pay me on a W-2. And now, 20 years later, I'm still making films, and I'm still hired to sell films, and I'm still hired to produce movies. And so it works. So that's really the organic version of how I got into it. And I love it. I love distribution. I love it. But I love filmmaking, and in a way it is a creative outlet, even though I'm not really the one creating it. There are some that I am starting to create now. I'm starting to build enough confidence to create my own. But I do love helping the team to get the movie together. So it does not have to be a script written by me or directed by me. Not at all. It just has to be a good project that has potential to be packaged, or it is packaged, and and then I get involved. But that's how it happened for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think so many people want to think that you just jump into this sort of thing and things just happen overnight, when in reality it's like you mentioned, right place, the right time, opportunities, and you just keep going for it.
There are some people who have had that, and we all know who they are because all of a sudden they appear. But filmmakers love to tell me as if I have no idea what these movies are. But what about the Blair Witch Project? What about Paranormal Activity? It's like, okay, well, what about the lottery winner who just won the big lotto? So does that mean that you don't have a job? No. You have a job, and you keep working at your job, and then on the side you play the lotto. Play the lotto. By all means, make the Paranormal Activity. But in the meantime, keep working at this as a job. And what I tell filmmakers to do is, if you're trying to do something on a creative spectrum, like I'm trying to get my script option sold or made, or I'm writing a script, or I want to just direct. I'm just a director. I just want to direct. Okay, great. But do something on the side. Learn to be a scripty or a production manager, or just do PA work, whatever it is that's more obtainable, that's also paying your bills while you are still doing that. And I know those guys, and those guys will succeed. I know they will. To keep yourself within the industry is key, because it keeps you in the know. It keeps you updated with what's going on, and, play the lotto, but have the job at the same time. You can do both. But if you're just going to keep rolling the dice, hoping for your film to be the next big thing, and you're a complete unknown, and the cast is a complete unknown, and everything about it is unknown. My kid just created a video like a month ago, and within 30 hours it went to like 10,000 views. It went viral. It's very telling. Anybody can have a little bit of temporary success. But if you're really in this, and you're listening to this podcast, and you're doing this for the long run because you're educating yourself, you definitely want to take those steps that keep you in the know, in the business, and keeps you paid. You want to pay the bills. You want to, feed your family. And it's very possible to do that. And, especially if you live outside of certain key areas, if you live in, more quiet states of the industry, you're sitting on a gold mine, because all you have to do is, learn, any crew position of the industry, and you're going to be the first one hired. Learn to be a line producer, learn how to do budgets, learn how to, be a production manager, a set designer, and you will definitely be hired, in maybe not New Mexico, because they're, or New Jersey, because those are going to be the next, Hollywoods. But, wherever you are, you can definitely have that secondary position in the industry that can make it for you. But yeah, that's how it worked for me. And, I did have another job, so I didn't have to go through that angst of, I'm the starving filmmaker, I'm the starving actor. I didn't have to go through that, because I always made sure I had an income happening at the same time. But it was just one situation after another that I had shared with Lucas in past conversations, that, here I am, I'm with Leonardo DiCaprio, and then I'm with James Cameron, and, now I'm like taking pictures with Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves. And, these were all very organic situations that I wasn't trying to make happen, but they happened. And, it's kind of a cool journey. A lot of the platforms today, which I think are spectacular, is that they offer so many educational videos that can help an aspiring filmmaker to learn how to, like I said, be a scripty, or, learn cinematography. That's a harder one because you have to invest in equipment. But to learn those skills, when you look at one of the guys that's been working for James Cameron for years, I mean, he always says, "Oh, Michelle gave me my first job, and I just brought him on the set as a PA, and then within filming, he kept graduating to other positions because the director just said, okay, wait, he knows what he's doing. I want him to do this." And now he's rigging, and now he's doing this and that. I'm like thinking, like, I don't even know. And the next thing I know, he's high up on the crane, helping the DP, like filming this aerial shot. And he came on set day one as a PA. And then by day 5, he was, high up on a crane. So, putting yourself at the right place at the right time. I've said this to filmmakers often: do extra work. It's not, humiliating. It's not beneath you. Do a handful of extra work. Put yourself on the big sets with the big actors, those big multi-million-dollar studio movies, just because you get to observe and learn. My friend was on a Mission Impossible. My other friend was on the last Leo DiCaprio movie. And he said, yeah, we were just extras, and how much information they were taking in. But in today's world, you can be in the basement in the middle of Timbuktu, and you can watch these videos, learn Stage 32, UCLA Online, all these different resources that provide all this information. The podcasts alone, just listening. But if you want the formal education, there's so much out there. And I mean, I'm at a point where I might even create that myself. I might create, a platform just for, my company's Lightyear Pictures. And, I was thinking like a, Lightyear, filmmaking, Lightyear knowledge, Lightyear education or something, just because I can see that even my little bit of knowledge, it's so helpful to so many. Here I'm looking at the master classes of like Jim Cameron and stuff, but oh my gosh, the master classes, those are just gold. Got to watch those, even if you're not in the industry, you got to watch those. You can definitely self-educate and make it in any capacity. And then while you're in it, you navigate to where you want to go, but you got to get in it so you can navigate to wherever it is you want to go. If it's director, actor, producer, whatever it is,
Yeah, I think Lucas and I definitely had that experience coming into the industry where we might have had an initial thought of, oh, I think this is what we might want to fit in. This is what we like to do. But then being at a studio, as you mentioned, it's always great to just offer yourself of like, oh, you need help with this. I'll help you out here and do different tasks.
Oh, I'm so glad you say that. Yeah, that's such an important thing. This is what I tell filmmakers. I'm sorry to stop you there, Michael, but I always tell filmmakers, when you're going to the film markets, we just had AFM 2025. It was back here in Los Angeles. And the last year it was in Las Vegas. And the year before that, it was at a different hotel. There's been some adjustments because of the Lowe's Hotel, where it was traditionally at for decades. They became a one-star up higher hotel. So, the contract ended and AFM is moving on. But just for the listeners, AFM is the American film market, and it's the biggest market in the United States for buying and selling independent movies. The biggest one is in Cannes, which is in May every year. And Berlin is another big one, EFM, which is coming up in a few months. I would advise filmmakers, when you're going to these markets, I'm going to the market to look for money. That's what I'm always hearing. I said, you're going to a bunch of starving filmmakers to look for money? Okay. So when you go, this is what I advise you to do. Have your materials, have your business card, have, everything of your film that you're looking to get made, but always offer your services as well. How can I help you? You nailed it, Michael. How can I help you? So, I have let's just say you're doing a $100,000 horror film, just to keep it on a simple level. And some of you might have a $10,000 horror film. You're putting it on a credit card. I know success stories from that. So let's just say hypothetically you have a $100,000 film. It's a horror film. You're going to direct it for the first time. And, you're walking around talking to everybody about it and, trying to see who can give you $100,000 to make your movie. But at the same time, just say, hey, let me get your card. Maybe I can do something to contribute to your film. And I tell filmmakers, create a team. There's nothing more attractive to an investor than seeing that there's already a team in place. And this is the analogy that I like to give. You have script A, which is The Godfather. Nobody knows what The Godfather is yet, but it's written. Script A. And then you have script B, which is, The Red Rose, whatever that is. And script A is just a script. There's nothing else. It's a no-name writer. Obviously, that's not the case, but no-name books. There's no book behind it, but it's just a script. And then script B, The Red Roses, is you have this director attached. He directed a couple of episodes of something. You have a line producer attached, and he's done about 5 feature films. You have this DP attached who has his own equipment, and he's done a couple of shorts and 1 feature. And then you have this actor who had 5 episodes on this, well-known TV show. Well, all of that was unknown, but you have a team, you have like something forming there. And a lot of them are like, yeah, and we have $10,000 in development funds, and it's really just my credit card. It's, you have something, and then you go make a pitch deck, which today costs nothing. I used to be paid $2,000 back in the day to make a pitch deck for a filmmaker. Now, my child can make it on Canva, AI. Boom, make your pitch deck. Your pitch deck, guys, it's a business plan, it's a presentation. There's lookbooks and there's pitch decks. The lookbooks is where people get it wrong and they start putting all the creative, this is the house, this is the location, this is the color shown. That's great. You're trying to get money. Make the pitch deck, show a business plan, show your pathway. These are the distributors we're talking to. We're looking to maybe film it in Louisiana because there's a tax credit. Oklahoma, I'm sorry, there's a tax credit and there's no minimum amount. And, just put all that in and it's going to change. It's going to, grow and evolve. But you have those materials. And so now you have script A, The Godfather, which is only a script. And you have script B that now has, some lukewarm director, a lukewarm DP, a lukewarm maybe cast member. You have a soft budget written out. You have $10,000 on a credit card that you can use as development. That's starting to get closer to becoming a film. And maybe everybody's lukewarm, but that's okay because that's what the independent industry film is. But that's okay. So if I have an investor who says, hey, Michelle, I have, $50,000 to put into a movie, I need to write it off before, December 31st. Well, that one's ready to go. If you want to do this Red Rose movie, it's like the Killer Rose or something. And and then what happens if the filmmaker says, yeah, but we really need 100 and he's only giving us 50? Okay, be smart, filmmakers. That's what makes you creative geniuses. Back into the 50. Adjust your script so you can shoot it for 50 or 60 if you have that $10,000. I was just using the 10,000 to make it more attractive, but in the end, you can keep it for yourself and say, Mr. or Mrs. H&I, high net worth individual, can I use the 50? And you be the 100% financier. Yeah. And now you have $50,000 to make your film, The Killer Rose, or whatever the title is. And now you are ahead of the game from, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,000 other scripts that are still trying to get made and not. I mean, I know people who have been sitting on their scripts trying to make the same movie for at least 15 to 20 years. Wow. At least. And people would tell me, but Michelle, don't you care if it's like a really good movie or not? So listen, there are so many good scripts that have become bad movies. There's so many bad scripts that have become good movies. For what I'm doing, my personal, preference is producing. So for what I'm doing, if I'm going to criticize art in that manner, then I'm just going to still be sitting on the same script. But I'm learning as I'm going. And for the 20, 30 films that I've made, I've learned so much more from the 200 to 300 films that I failed in making. And I mean, I've been burned. I've failed. I was right there getting the money. And I'm talking top A-list groups of people that I was trying to work with. And, if they're listening to this, they know who they are that I was involved in. So it's fine, but I'm learning. And that's one of the things that what you just mentioned, Michael, offer your services, How can I help you? And that's one of the things I always say in my conversation. How can I help you? And that goes a long way. It goes a long way.
Yeah. I know Lucas and I know the thing about teams. I think we've been working with each other at various studios and we keep each other in the loop. And yeah, having that strong network of people you can always rely on and hit up at a moment's notice and say, hey, I got this going on. Let's come in and knock this out. It's very invaluable in what we do.
Yeah.
I wanted to add what you were saying, Michelle. Failure is the best teacher. You do learn, like we say this, trial by fire. You can only learn so much from being in a classroom, but once you start applying, slowly figuring, that things don't really work a certain way, failure is what's going to humble you. And, that's how you start getting that knowledge that is invaluable.
I think you nailed it, Lucas. I think today there's been this shift in the world of society where you can have a bachelor's degree, and by all means, everybody pursue your degrees, but you can have a bachelor's degree, but if you have 10, 15 years of experience in whatever it is, that trumps the degree. Having experience is more important to them because ultimately they need people who can handle a situation. They need people who can figure it out and think and not say, okay, the assignment is due on Friday, have it done. Okay, well, we got that down and we got a degree for it. And I'm all for the degrees. I went to college. I know. I'm still debating if my son's going to go to college or if he's just going to keep pursuing what he's doing and he'll be more of a master in that field. If you think about it, consistency trumps talent. You start doing something, let's just say at 5 years old, jiu-jitsu. And now you're 25 years old and you have 20 years of jiu-jitsu training. Doesn't matter if you were really good at it or not. But one thing is for sure, at 25 with 20 years behind you, you're respected and you're hireable in that field if they need to teach it. I mean, I'm just giving that as an example. But, if you're directing one short film after another and it's always costing you your credit card and, you just keep directing a film, even if it's a one-day shoot. And now you have like 15 short films and then you sell them all as, one big film, if it's you, Michael, the Michael Short Films platform or whatever, you start gaining something there. There's something there to that consistency trumps talent. And, I'm sure people will challenge me on that. It's just something I thought of. Number one, every person has something. Every person has a talent or a skill, whether they know it or not. It could be language, it could be art, it could be math, it could be whatever, sports. Mine maybe was numbers, it was math, maybe, and then I got a job in that. I was doing finance and, it was very comfortable for me because my job consisted of talking to major banks, Bank of America, Western Financial at the time, Chase Bank. And I was negotiating with the banks to restructure a financial breakdown for a customer to drive this car. So I had to get very creative with numbers and I had to also sell. So again, it wasn't, hey, Chase Bank, please take this guy. It's, hey, Chase, I have an opportunity here for you to buy this paper and you get to have another loan and make your interest rate. And so that's where I started to feel, do not ask them to help you, present to them an opportunity, make them an offer they can't refuse,
Yeah.
So by the time I started doing this little play and then a little short film or whatever, I don't even remember at that point, but I came about it in a very different way from how my colleagues were going about it. And and be careful, filmmaker friends out there. I get this a lot. Oh, I'm not good with business. I'm an artist. Okay. Listen, John Lennon. Okay. Everybody's an artist. Artists are, replaceable. I hate to say it that way, but every human being has a creative element. All of us have that gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to say, yeah, but I really need a good DP. Well, that's not something where anybody can just be a DP. I mean, there are people who just have equipment, but you have to have a skill, a talent, perhaps formally trained talent, and a little bit of credibility and a reputation to get that job.
Yeah.
So if you're going to lean into that, start taking any job you can. Invest in yourself, get the equipment, start learning, study it, go on platforms, videos, whatever, and you start learning it. But that is, again, consistency trumps talent. And you're always going to have those few, super talented, John Jones or, Max Verstappen, these are all the gods in their field. There's always going to be those, but it doesn't have to just be that. You can't, you don't have to choose from, this office job, or I have to become Max Verstappen. You can still pursue it and make something of yourself. And I'm very happy, where I am, and I'm always going to try to improve, but I'm not, Kathleen Kennedy. I'm not Paula Wagner. I'm not those, goddesses in the industry. I'm just Michelle, but I'm still, I'm still paying the rent somehow. So, and I haven't had a side job yet. That's just a suggestion and advice of, be careful. You get the filmmakers that they say it proudly, but it's not always perceived that way. I know you're an artist and you're good at that, but Tom Cruise is really Tom Cruise because the guy has this talent, which he never went to film school, never won an Oscar, none of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And he has this business sense. He just knows what makes sense. And there is something so admirable about that. And there's some sort of badge of honor that he never did win any award of his amazingness. And it's like, why? Because he surpassed all of them. He's just so good with the creative and with the business. And if you can learn your business side a little bit, like here, let me just give you guys this. You want to all make a movie. Everybody that's listening, they want to make a movie or they want to be part of making a movie. What's your very first question you want to ask yourself on what movie you want to make? You can be the artist and say, oh, but I really want to make a movie about how trees grow. Okay, keep your job and make the movie, but don't give up your job. Or the most important question you should ask yourself when you want to go into making a movie is, who will be my target audience? Pick your audience. The most dedicated audience in the filmmaking, in the film world is horror. They're the most dedicated. But let's just say you don't want to make horror. You just want to make anything else. You love the Terminator. I love the Terminator.
Yeah, me too.
Cameron never made $1 on that. You love the Terminator. Actually, right now, action, sci-fi, horror is the best genre to be making an indie film. And you're going to say, oh, Michelle, that's ridiculous. You have to have a big budget for that. For a certain type of movie, yes. I think Terminator was made for $6 million at the time, which was considered a super low budget indie. You make it with what you can, with what you have. If you're going to make any type of film, that means you have something. You have to have money for food and for the camera. But just make something, And who's your target audience? If you're going to make a faith film, lean into the faith. If you're going to make a horror film, lean into the horror. It doesn't mean be like all bloody and gross. It just means lean into making it really scary. Try not to cross genres too much because that doesn't help. Just lean into whoever is your target audience and reverse engineer into the film. And I want to say those two words one more time. Reverse engineer. You sit down with 2 or 3 of your friends who you want to get together with. I mean, James Cameron kind of has that famous story with his friends. And you just make a list of all your resources. Okay, we have a car. We have, Michael, we have your house. We're going to use that for the scene. Lucas, we have your garage. Michelle, we have your accounting skills, your money skills. Okay. And then, hey, I think I know the actor who was on, Two Broke Girls. He had like 5 episodes. Maybe I can see if I could just add him to the business plan. And then you go on, you start writing a summary based on what you have and where you can film and what you can do. And then you make that film. And who's the audience for that? Oh, it's going to be, you know, more of a comedy because of the actor we can get. And then you lean into that and you make that with peanuts money that you have. And if you can't sell it because either it's a short film or it's, you know, for whatever reason, then release it on YouTube or, you know, whatever platform you can. One of my favorite things I used to watch on YouTube back in the day was called Chad Vader. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, but it was about Darth Vader's brother, Chad Vader, who worked in a grocery store and he worked at the night shift. So they used all the elements that they were allowed to use. In Chad Vader, he looks just like Darth Vader, but like a customer. But everybody just treated him just normal. No one recognized him to be anything else but just the store manager. And like the guy would come, like this older man, he would say, I bought these chips. I want my money back because the chips are stale. And he would say, I could feel your anger, you know, and he would use all the lines. And then there's like the guy who mops the hallway because, I mean, the aisleway because the ice cream or something melted. And he would say, you know, impressive, most impressive. And then when he gets called in by his boss, you know, and he's just this big, huge guy with the receding hairline, big, overweight guy with this clipboard, a typical like manager of Albertsons, you know, type of guy. And he's like, all right, Chad, you know, we have a problem here with the staff. And then Chad Vader, he would kneel down. He would say, you know, what is I bidding my master? And he would say, would you stop calling me master? I just want you to tell Bob that he needs to clock out by 12 o'clock. So everything was your everyday, like, basic story. You guys got to look. I'm sure it still exists, but
yeah, it sounds familiar. I think I've seen it, but it's been such a long time.
Yeah, it's like back from the 1800s. I mean, I was just like watching this, like, oh my god, and I was so into it. And there's one point where like he uses his force, you know, and the apple is floating, and you know, so I mean, it was just very innocent and sweet, and you know, they made a name for themselves. You know, they made a name, and I think they had to obviously get permission to certain degrees because they're using, you know, Darth Vader's, you know, image, but they did a great job, and you know, it just shows that no matter where you are and what you're doing, you could just create that team. Like I said, you know, you have this script or that script, and you just get together, you know, and ask, you know, how can I help you? How can we collaborate? And then when you guys do collaborate, it makes it better because if, let's say you, Michael, have a script and you, Lucas, have a script and I have a script and we're all trying to get our own money, it's like, hey, wait a minute. Why don't the three of us just become one team? And now we have 3 scripts that are in various stages of development because now you have a slate, and a slate is super cool. An IP, it's super cool. What's more cool than a script is when I say there's a part 2 and a part 3. You know, all of those elements are going to say, oh, okay, wait, I can make money on that. Okay, well, what about a series? Yeah, make a series. In the indie world, it's tough to make a pilot and then get, you know, ABC to, you know, give you all the money to make it more. Shoot the pilot. If you're going to shoot the film, just write it in a way that you have 6 episodes, you know, and you have a 3-hour feature film that is 6 episodes. And now you have a TV series you're selling instead of a film. How cool is that? You know, so when you go to the markets like AFM, or if you go to Berlin, depending on where you are and where you're listening from, it's pretty cool to say, yeah, I'm selling a series. All 6 episodes are completed. And now you have another keyword, you have leverage. And when you have that leverage, you go there and now it gets you in the door to talk. Yeah, I have this series with 6 episodes. And listen, guys, it might be super low budget quality. That's okay. You know, if you see the stuff I see out there, I promise yours will be better. Just make it. But then when you're in the room and you're having the meeting to sell that, you could say, hey, you know what? We also have these other 3 scripts that we are looking to get going. And that's where you guys as a teamwork, it makes something. If you notice in today's films, one actor doesn't carry a film anymore. Now they have to like salt and pepper with tons of well-known cast. You know, there's a reason for that. Because right now, I would say the genres and the actual movie itself is more important than even the cast. You know, so we're starting to shift in that direction. If you notice the trends, it's still there. You know, still there's the big announcements when movie stars add on, but you know, I'd say Tom Cruise is the last of the movie stars, and you know, we're phasing into something different. That's just my opinion.
That's very prophetic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something I kind of like heard before. I think that's a trend that other people are starting to notice. It's like what really carries something. I think it's probably due to like how younger consumers probably are taking in content. I think things have shifted a lot. From when we were growing up, it was all about movies and shows, and everyone talking about Friends, everyone talking about these big cultural phenomenons, and now it's a lot different. It's about have you seen that funny video that I sent you that's like 10, 50 seconds long? It is kind of genre driven, I think, a little bit in terms of what people are consuming.
That's exactly right, Michael. The newer generation, they're not sold on that. There could be an influencer, a YouTuber, somebody that actually, I have a great example. I was at a wedding and there were some, TV celebrity faces there that a lot of us would know. But my son at 10 years old, he said, Bobby, that's a famous YouTuber. And I said, who? That guy over there. And I'm looking, I said, no, he just looks like a guy. Like, yeah, Mom, he's a famous YouTuber. And so I said, are you sure? So I look him up and I see, he's like kind of a semi. He's not like, a podcaster like a Joe Rogan by any means. He's a guy that, 99.9% of the world won't know. But my kid knew him. My kid knew him.
That's interesting.
And he could care less about anybody else. Everybody else was just more like, he was about polite, hi, how are you? But when he saw the young guy, the YouTuber, he's probably like 19 or 20 years old, and he gets like a couple 100,000 follows. I think one of his videos has 1 million views. My son was like starstruck. That's the world today. And, I think when I look at, your kids are a great focus group if you have kids, but, like one of the last stars that I would say where my kid will get overly excited over is Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah.
That's not just Neo. That's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. That's a big deal to him. So when we saw Keanu, my son was on set. He did, directed by Jonah Hill. I don't think it's out yet, but we were there and my kid was just like, that's Neo. But more importantly, that's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, And he loves, I love Point Break. That's another like, oh my God, just one of the best movies ever, by Catherine Bigelow. She's just another goddess in this industry. She just knows what she's doing. She just knows how to direct. And that movie Point Break was just fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of those movies you typically watch at least once a year.
At least, yeah. As long as they play it, I will be watching it. Yeah, they filmed it actually close to where I grew up. Actually, right where I grew up, in LA, in the South Bay. And, I see some part, I'm like, oh, there's my dive and serve. Oh, there's that. I know that area. And, that was always really cool. But yeah, that was a very, very good movie. And so, yeah, my kid was just like, Keanu Reeves, he's one of the last movie stars where when he walks, everybody else is just like, wow,
Yeah, he just always manages to stay relevant.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's very quiet, in the outside of, in the TMZ world. But yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, I hear nothing but good stories about him. There was a coworker I had that said that he actually saw him perform, with his band. And it was after the set, he was just at the bar having a drink. And he happened to be wearing like, I guess it was like a limited edition, like Matrix kind of watch. I don't know if it was like a Rolex or something.
Yeah.
And he was wearing the watch and Keanu just walks up to him and was like, dude, where'd you get that watch?
It's like, I want it.
Yeah.
We've been like, here. Oh my God, talk to me. Yeah. Like, oh my God, you're Neo.
Yeah. So
you are
cool.
the one. You are the one.
He is, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, there's the ones that, I know not everybody agrees with, but I agree with me, is Hayden Christensen. It's like, you are the one, you are the chosen one, you are Anakin, so yeah, he's another special force that he's very quiet, but he's back to being relevant. He was always relevant to me, but to the industry, he's back to being relevant with Disney, which is great. I'm super happy for him. So yeah, these are the guys that, they just quietly keep persisting, and they're a perfect example of, you just keep going at it, and that consistency, find a way. There's going back a few minutes ago, I was telling you that about like putting a movie on a credit card, and there's this one movie, get the title. It's on my IMDb as a special thanks. It's the two names. And I was helping them with some distribution and stuff, so they thanked me. But during COVID, the young lady, she had credit cards, and she took 5,000 here, 5,000 there. She asked her buddy, hey, can you direct? And she just created the story that they could shoot right there in their backyard. And she's now like a pretty big success. She's done really well, and now she's booking other films, and she's in Vogue magazine or stuff like that. I mean, all from shooting this little film on a credit card, and it's a small credit card too. It's not like she had like $100,000. I want to say it was like $10,000 or $15,000 or something. So she did it. Yeah, she did it. So some great, impressive stories like that. And those are not the win the lottery ticket stories. Those are the stories of, she had the resources at hand, and she pursued it as long as she could still, have a roof over her head. You never want to go to the point where you're now homeless and, I was a starving artist and now I'm trying. It's like, you don't want to do that. You don't have to do that. You could still be very smart about it and, pursue in different ways. And that's why, I say, always offer people your services. And if you're not sure what yet you can do, you'll find it. When you guys start doing things, you'll find it. Sometimes I've surprised myself. I'm like, oh, I never thought I could creatively think of something like that. And because I'm always numbers and graphs and charts, and it's like, oh, I guess I do have a creative side in my brain. It's it's there. I just forget, and sometimes I have to be in the moment to tap into it. So you all have it. Every single human being, when the sperm hits the egg, boom, you have it. It's just a matter of, recognizing it and acknowledging it and using it,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it definitely looks differently for everybody. I think that's the one thing that we always get caught up in, and just like no really set cookie cutter mold sometimes to some of these things.
Yeah.
You just kind of have to go with the flow. So, no, it's awesome. If you want to maybe just break down more of like the responsibilities of what goes into being in your production role and then distributor role.
My personal strength, as I mentioned earlier, is money. The word producer has become a very vast, position. And, you'll see films with 30 producers on there. Does that mean they actually produced the movie? Not necessarily. What you'll find is a lot of people who are the writers or the directors, or writers and directors, they are also the producers. They're the ones, helping finding the money and hiring the key elements to get the film going. Lately, it seems that I'm more of, okay, Michelle, help find the money, help find a distribution deal. I don't want to scare people away with saying that. So you get to a certain point where to find the money, you want to lock in the distribution before. But a lot of on the smaller films, you don't need to go that way. You just make the movie and then you seek out the distribution. But my stage now, it's we want to get an MG, a minimum guarantee. And that is something where the distributor guarantees you, the filmmaker, a minimum X amount for your film. So you don't want to really go past that number. Now, some of you are going to say, but Michelle, we've had MGs of like $2,000. Yeah, that's after you've made your movie. And they just really want to get your film to sell it, but they're giving you a little something to motivate you to go with them versus someone else who's not offering anything. But an MG, if a company says, hey, I'll give you $300,000, then you can kind of go around the $500,000 mark and make your movie. So my primary position today in a lot of the films, it's to get the funding, get the distribution up front, lock in the key 2 or 3 or 4 actors that will help sell the movie. And then, maybe some main crew, like the line producer or, the editor or something. But I don't really get involved too much into that. Usually the director is the key. And if the film doesn't have the director, then I'm seeking out the right director. Like there's a film where we're looking for the right director on, and that's because of there's going to be some high-end chase scenes. A lot of racing scenes.
Mhm.
And so, you need a Christopher McQuarrie on the affordable level, or rest in peace, Tony Scott. You need a director that can handle that.
Mhm.
And so that's primarily where I'm at. And then while the film is being made, I might go on the set, just, make sure the money's being spent right, just because I report to the investors. And then once it starts going into post, that's where, if I don't have the secure distribution just yet, that's where I'm looking to help get it theatrical, or on a good streaming platform where it can, financially, recoup.
Mhm.
So it's about a good 2-3 year process when you're a producer. When you're an actor, you go in, go out. Same with crew. Crew, you guys work very hard, but you know what? So does everybody else. The VFX guys. I mean, I guess that's kind of crew, but they're in the post more so. Like
Mhm.
my friend David Black, Lucas. I mean, that guy works harder than anything, and he makes those Marvel movies and those films just look like. I mean, I don't need to.
Shout out to Dave Black.
Yeah, shout out to Dave Black. He's
Mhm.
he's amazing, and those guys are essential to making those visuals eye candy. To where it's like, oh my god, I got to see this movie, even if it's not my kind of movie. I just got to see it.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then once all that's done, then you have a whole team in the world of distribution that's working on the film. There's a lot of people. Again, this is a business. There's a lot of jobs that are created, and there's a lot of room for each of us to work on these films.
Mhm.
There's no limit to how many films can be made. There's a limit to how many films can screen in a theater, which that's starting to have a certain conversation of its own.
Mhm.
They're going to start maybe reducing that. I don't know. There's a whole world of Cosm and the Sphere. If you guys are aware of that, where now the films are more of your whole peripheral. There's going to be no more of this. Now, I mean, I just literally watched The Matrix again, like 4 months ago in Cosm. If you guys know what that is, it's a spherical type theater, and oh my gosh, I mean, I'm sitting there, and you look up, you look down, and I mean, it's just unreal. And I'm there in the Matrix, when Neo is at the top of the building and he's being instructed by Morpheus, to go here, go there. And, well, Mr. Anderson, he's like, oh, this is crazy. What am I doing? And he looks down, and then I look down, and I had to like brace myself, because we're not moving. This is not like The Simpsons at Universal Studios. I mean, I'm just in my seat in the theater, but the visual is like, I could see the sky and I could see the ground, and for a minute you have to just close your eyes, otherwise your vertigo, you're gonna lose your balance. So really cool. I mean, that's the direction that I could foresee that successfully going in. And I mean, you're always still gonna have your frame feature films, but yeah, that's a whole other level. Yeah, they're even using that for sports. I mean, you're sitting right there in the end zone. And I'll tell you what happened to me is, when you see movies like that, I want to go back and see Titanic and Avatar and Top Gun. I want to see all those movies on that screen. Oh, Star Wars. Oh my God.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
Yeah, but what happens is it's like flying first class all the time, and then all of a sudden the regular theater is like, I'm just sitting in the back in economy now again. And you start to feel like that. I mean, I'm okay with it because I'm old enough that I grew up with that. But oh my gosh, it's like, yeah, it's just really good. Recommend everybody to go see a movie in Cosm, COSM. I don't know if it's the Matrix anymore, but it's one movie. And they have a lot of other content that they show there. But the sports world, it's game changer. I mean, you're right there on a UFC fight. You're right there. It's just amazing. And now with the World Cup coming and all that, I mean, I don't know if they're going to have live, but I mean, they have to just make more venues, and then the prices will come down at some point. Right now, it's like $80 a ticket. But the cool thing is like it's also a restaurant, and if you pay the extra $40 they'll feed you. So like when you're watching The Matrix, when she's like, here, take a cookie, the waitress brings you a cookie.
Nice.
And,
It's just another degree of being immersed.
yeah, you're not dealing with scents or smells or moisture or movement. So it's still comfortable in that sense that you don't feel invasive if you don't want it to be. But yeah, when Cypher's eating the steak, like, I just want to forget everything. Well, they bring you a steak dinner. And then there's a part where Neo's going to see the Oracle and he's like, I used to get noodles from there, but that didn't really happen, did it? And then they bring you noodles, like the starter. So it's kind of cool. I mean, it's like and the food is good, by the way. It's not like theme park food. It's legit food. It's legit food. Just like, here, take a cookie. And then all of a sudden we get a cookie. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
So yeah, really, really cool. I mean, if when you love film, you just get giddy on that type of stuff. I mean, even if you're like you don't even have to love film. It's just fun. It's just fun, Yeah, it's an experience. And that's what filmmaking is, that's what films are. It's an experience, and that's what they want it to be. And I love that Tom Cruise is so candid about it. He's like, listen, I want you to buy that, whatever popcorn and sit there and just watch my movies. That's the movies that I want to make. I want you guys to just enjoy and watch these movies and and not have to think, like, there's no message or something, like, you guys are working all day in the office, you have a gym membership you have to pay for, you got the kids screaming at home, and every now and then you just want to go to the movies and just watch a good movie that takes you out. And as an independent filmmaker, it's a little bit harder to do, but we could still take people into our world, with our creativity. We could still do it. And even though I'm not on the creative side, I still partake in it. And I'm very honored to, still be accepted, in the business that I can, give my services and make those films. I have a faith movie. We start shooting in March. I don't know if I could plug. I mean, I'm not sure I'm plugging. It's not like I have a book, but I mean, we start shooting this movie called Ethan Almighty in March, April, and we start shooting in Kentucky. It's a true story about a man and his dog, and the lead is going to be played by the cool, badass Sean Patrick Flannery from Nefarious and Boondock Saints.
Oh, wow.
And he's such a great actor. And so he's playing the lead. I mean, he's like identical to the real character, Jeff Calloway. And so Ethan Almighty is the title. It was just put out in the trades about a week ago. And so, we're making that. And then we're also making, there's a couple movies that we're making. I'm not sure what I can or cannot say yet, but that one I can. And then, we have some films that have already released and come out, and, I'm really happy about, The Tale of Nikki Newark. That film has Kelly Stables from 2.5 Men. It has Frank Whaley from Swimming with the Sharks, Pulp Fiction, Swing Kids, and then let's see, the other movie that I have that will come out soon is an equestrian movie, Beautiful Horses, and that's with Sean Patrick Flannery and Jamie King. You might know her from Heart of Dixie, and Jennifer Taylor, who also actually was in 2.5 Men. I have a lot of 2.5 Men cast. And let's see, what else? I have a few other films. Oh gosh, I'm blanking here. But yeah, after the SAG strike, I couldn't take a risk anymore from going from COVID to the SAG strike. And so boom, we just shot 6 feature films. And glad we did, because then the next disaster came, which was the fires. And unfortunately, I lost a lot of income from the fires, and I don't talk about it to that degree because my source of income, they completely lost their home. They lost everything. It was just an ashtray in Altadena.
Wow. And
it was just awful. So for the film industry, we've had, 3 to 4 major, crises, from COVID, that was the world. And then SAG strike, that was the whole industry. We couldn't do anything. And then we had the LA fires, and then North Carolina that had the hurricane flood, and we were going to be shooting a movie there, and that stopped everything. And so, now I'm just always bracing myself. It's like we have one thing after another that either stops the movie or we lose investment, but I built up enough momentum that, we've kept going. But I'm glad I shot those 6 movies right away, because then the fires came and that stopped. So, but sometimes those can be, you never want to hope for those, but if it does happen, which so far we're on a roll, you want to find the silver lining in doing it. And that's what, like the one young lady I was mentioning, she just took her credit card and, the few friends that they have, and they shot the movie. And then once COVID started phasing out, there was just not that many films made. So Tom Cruise paved the way with Mission Impossible. But how many people were making Mission Impossible? So this young lady made this little film, and then there was not that much content. So she didn't have as much to compete with. But on top of it, they actually made a good movie. I mean, I don't think it was intended that way. It was just, they just didn't know what to do. So they said, let's just do it this way. So it was very smart. Yeah. So you always want to find your way. Always find your way. Yeah.
Sure.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lucas.
It might turn into several questions, but I always tend to think like, what's in a name, and how did you come about the naming of your company?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you. So what happened, really, I'll tell you this. So this is my company, Lightyear Pictures. I'll send it to you. I have a cool cinematic logo.
Oh, cool.
Again, this is another perfect example of, a disaster. And then you have to think of how to go around that. And then sometimes it creates an opportunity. So there was this law coming out called AB5, I believe. It was something with Uber drivers and making Uber drivers like a W-2 employee, or there was something like that. I could be getting this all wrong. But, that was going to change how I get paid from all these various sources. I was telling you in the beginning of the podcast, I'm a producer's rep, distributor, producer. It's like, wait a minute, some of these one-day jobs, how this, maybe I'm not understanding this right. So my accountant just said, Michelle, start your own company. You've been making enough films under Michelle Alexandria, just start the company. And I said, okay. And I go to bed that night, I'm thinking, well, what do I want my company name to be? So I just thought, well, what do I love? Well, I love space. I love time. I love sci-fi. I love music. And so I just wrote down all my favorite words. This is before we had like AI to say, hey, give me a list of like 20, So, I mean, maybe AI existed by that time. I don't know, but it wasn't there for me yet. This was 2018 or so, 2019. And so I just wrote down all these different words, and, I went to GoDaddy and I start typing in to see which one works. And it was my first try. It was Lightyear Pictures. I was trying to choose between Lightyear Entertainment and Lightyear Pictures. And then I thought, well, Lightyear Pictures, or we could just call it LYP. And then it worked out in my favor, because so I buy Lightyear Pictures. Actually, there's a funnier story to that, but I buy Lightyear Pictures and on GoDaddy, which costs $11. There is no reason to not buy it, guys. Your domain. Whenever you have a script and you have your winning title, buy your domain. So I created Lightyear Pictures, and it was just very gradual at the time. It was just like, and then I got the $800 bill from California. I had to pay $800 to keep this corporation. You could have an LLC or S Corp or C Corp, depending on how your financial structure is. And started building from that. I started building from that, and every film I made from that point on, that's just part of the deal. It's a Lightyear Pictures film, and it's a company that just does almost all the genres except for, we don't do horror films, or we just do live action or animation. I haven't done animation yet. I'd like to, so I say live action or animation, and family genres, thrillers are the scariest I'll go, but comedy, romance, obviously sci-fi, that's my number one. But it's hard to do on a lower budget. I have another movie that we shot. It's called Side Slip, one word. And it was written by this, really smart genius, neuroscientist guy. and it's a time travel movie. And so the actors are Chase Coleman, because he's very well known for CW's The Originals. It was a spinoff from the Vampire Diaries. And then Bruce Locke, who is also, a cool sci-fi actor. He was the main villain in RoboCop 3, and he was the villain in the TV series Mortal Kombat. It's a buddy picture, and these two guys are the leads. And so that's in post right now. So that's a fun sci-fi. So, that's another example of that film didn't have a lot of money to make, but the script was really good. And the script was written in a way that you don't have to have, it's not like we're going to go back in time, like in Back to the Future, one of the best movies ever made, Back to the Future. It's not like Back to the Future where you go back in time and now, you see like old Cadillacs and stuff. This is just side slipping into different realms in various ways. And it's really a story that's written in a way that you just follow, these two guys. And it's a really cool script. I'm hoping in post it'll come out well, because I think the actors were phenomenal. And the script is phenomenal. So I'm waiting to see in post how it comes out. We're having the effects done right now on it. So that's an example of, low budget. It was under $1 million. But we found a good script and we optioned it. And guys, when you have scripts and you're trying to get them out there, there are platforms that you can put your scripts on where producers like myself, we go there and shop it. Like one of them is called Inktip. There's a few of them. Inktip is the one that I've known of the most. And, I can even click and say, okay, I want this, this, and that. I want a feature film. I want this genre. And the reason why those are helpful is sometimes I'll get an investor who'll say, oh, Michelle, I really want to do a movie with a boy and a dog, a family film. So I'll click, I want the boy with the dog or a horse. And then I'll get a list of like 40 or 50 synopsises, and then I could pick which script I'd like to option. By the way, you can option the script for $1 if that works out to that writer, and you make a deal and say, look, can I option it for $1? And then if I get the funding, then I will pay you like $5,000 or $10,000, So again, it's everybody working together. And this business is so collaborative, required that, don't be afraid to do it that way. It pays off. So
actually, we're coming up on our time. So any final thoughts that you want to impart on the audience as to being in the industry or being a producer or distributor?
Yeah, just in whatever capacity of a filmmaker you want to be, whether it's an actor, whether it's in crew, whether it's in, the above the line producer, director, again, I just think consistency, it can get you somewhere. Don't feel, I have to have this born talent. You can do it. And there's so much out there now. In fact, maybe there's too much out there, but there's so much out there now where you could just dedicate yourself to learning that. And, if you start learning anything, if you start learning, Mandarin, any language, and you just start doing it every day, just for a little bit, that's the hardest thing, is to just keep doing something. That's the hardest thing in today's world, in the Instagram world of everything is within seconds. TikTok, you want to be satisfied and get that dopamine within seconds. But if you can discipline yourself and just educate yourself in whatever it is, and pick two fields, something maybe even close to each other, where maybe I can't get hired as, the VFX, but maybe I can get hired as, a special effects at a, in a post house or something, something. And, I've had actors who they're just trying to get jobs, and then they go work as an assistant in a talent agency, that, well, God, they're getting this, the direct source of what roles are coming out, pretty smart. So yeah, that's just my advice to the filmmakers. It's, to stick to one or two things and keep going at it, to where 12 months from now, 52 weeks from now, you're 52 weeks ahead of everybody else. You've taught yourself. And now you're somebody where it's like somebody like me could say, oh my God, I need to hire them onto the film. That's great.
I got one. What would you advise, or I guess impress upon the young ladies listening to you at the moment?
From a filmmaking, Lucas?
Just, maybe if they're interested in, following your footsteps, becoming a producer or distributor, you say that you do classes and you teach.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I had this conversation just yesterday. I was speaking to a couple of women I'm working with, and one of them, I don't know her, but she came on the call and we were just having a fun conversation. And there was this whole, women, or, something like that. And I had to chime in and say, it's funny. My strongest circle around me have been, or are right now, women. Like with my company, they're these women. But I will say that the people who boosted me up, who gave me a chance, who let me be part of the team, who trusted my experience or lack of experience, have all been men. And I have never once felt that I got a job or I did not get a job because I'm a woman. So my brain, unfortunately, doesn't know how to separate that, Lucas, to give advice to women in particular, but to people in particular. And there are very few things that a woman can do that a man cannot do, and vice versa. If we're going to go to the film world, strength, if I need, the heavy lifting, that is man. But creatively, the perspectives are very special. How the three of us will look at the same glass in the center of a table. We all will have a different perspective. I'm going to be looking at it as a woman, as a mother, at my age, whereas you guys will still see things differently. But I will say that for the young ladies that are listening, there is nothing that you cannot do. From directing to, some of the best directors, I just talked about Catherine Bigelow. The creative mind, pursue it just the same way. The young lady I told you with the credit card, she took the credit card during COVID and said, "Oh, you're going to give me this 10,000 credit card? I'm going to go make a movie." She made a movie and now she's like this ambassador for Vogue or something. She's like this high up because she's just so pretty. Like she has like a unique pretty, so yeah, I don't know how to separate it, but I will say, and I say this to the young men as well, be professional. That's something I teach in my classes that I didn't think I had to teach until I learned I have to teach it. When you go to a film market, when you go into a meeting, know who you're going to see, be professional, sit properly. And I say that because like one of my colleagues, he would always sit on the chair on top of his leg, like he'd fold his leg under the chair, and I'm looking at him like, oh my God, you're a grown man.
I still do that.
Yeah, but when you're sitting in a meeting, which is almost that job interview feeling, and you're trying to pitch your film and ask for millions of dollars, be professional, dress professional, be clean, just treat this as a business. And I get the artistry element of, you want to be the cool artist, but we're not in the music industry. We're not rock stars. We're trying to make a movie, and there is something different about that. And for the young ladies and the young men out there, just be the professionals that you are. Find your words. Do the research of who you're going to be talking to. If you're going to a meeting, if you have a potential investor, verbally commit to whatever it is you're doing. So just to give you this example, if you're going to make, the horror film, The Killer Rose, let's go back to that one. I'm going to have to make this movie now, The Killer Rose. If you're talking to someone who might even be interested, commit to something in your mind like, yes, it's a feature film. It's going to be 90 minutes. It's going to be a horror, not bloody horror, but just, psychological horror. And, I'm looking for, this is where people lose. Well, how much do you need? Well, not sure yet. I might get the budget. No, I need $250,000. Boom. Stick to that number, because I guarantee you, if he gives you even half of that, you can make that movie, and you can make a good movie. And something I always say in my classes is, you can make Titanic. You can make it the way James Cameron made it in the man-made lake he built for billions and billions of dollars. You can make Titanic in a swimming pool, you can make Titanic in a bathtub. They're all different versions of Titanic, but you're still making Titanic. You know, if you take a little toy boat in the bathtub and you film it and it breaks, you know, my kid, he built a Titanic with Legos, you know, and it could break in half. You know, you could still build it. It's just different production qualities and different level. And yes, production quality is of the utmost importance. But sometimes just doing it, you're training yourself. My kid, he has this kinetic sand set up. And he was like, God, this might make me sound like a bad mom, but he was like 5 years old and he had these little action figures, tiny little figures, Lego figures on his kinetic stand. And he set up mommy's cell phone camera and he's filming it. And I'm looking at him from the side and he takes the character and he's like, give me your clothes, your keys, and your motorcycle. And the other guy is like, da da da. And I'm like, is my kid reenacting Terminator 2? Like in the opening scene? And I look, and he's this little kid doing this by himself, filming, making his own little scene and on kinetic sand. And I just thought, oh my God, you know. So it's like, there's no license to drive here. Any of us could make a movie on proof, you know? So yeah, that's my thoughts, my advice.
Well, we appreciate your time and your wonderful contribution. It's really wonderful having you with us.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Michael. Super fun to talk to you guys. I could talk movies all day long. Definitely.
Likewise.
You know, yeah, it's my most favorite topic in the world. And one of my producing partners, after we had a long meeting last night with the investors, she called me after and said, "Oh, the meeting went really well." And she said, "There's a movie I think I told you I'm trying to do with John Travolta." And she said, "I gotta ask you this, Michelle. How do you have time to watch these movies that you know them so well?" And I said, "Wow, hold on." I said, "The last 10 years I may not have, you know, watched movies to that level just because I became a mom and, you know, this and that." I said, "But I'll tell you, these movies are so good that how do you not watch them?" And this is why I can't have, I still have cable television, because there's a satisfaction that I get when I just flip through channels and it's whatever is on. It's like, ooh, Aliens on. Oh my God, I gotta watch Alien. You know, James Cameron's Aliens. Like, oh my God, you know, I gotta watch this or that. And my favorite thing, the time that I cuss at my TV like a crazy old lady, when I'll see that the movie's on. Like, you know, let's say, you know, Point Break again. It's on. It's like, oh my God, Point Break is on. And it's 30 minutes in. I can't wait. And I get excited. And when I turn to that channel, if it's on a commercial, I'm like, you know, like, you know, but when I turn it on and it's right in the middle of the scene, I'm like, oh my God, that's like my dopamine. Like I get so happy that I cannot give up cable because I want it there for me, because I come from the days of Blockbuster, and Blockbuster made the mistake of not buying Netflix. Seeing the movie was one experience, but going into a Blockbuster and walking by all those DVDs with your friend. I mean, they make movie scenes about it. If you look at the movie The Holiday, Kate Winslet and Jack Black, they're in the video store. And then he's like, "Oh, the graduate cuckoo, Mrs." And then there's Dustin Hoffman behind, you know, like those are scenes in itself. And I miss those days. You know, I want those days back, but we don't have them anymore. And I got to watch all these movies. And yeah, my colleague asked me, like, how do you see all these movies? How do you know them so well? It's like, you know, I grew up watching these movies up until about 10 years ago. But then even in the last 10 years, I mean, I could quote that Baz Luhrmann's Elvis movie. That to me is one of the best movies made, in my opinion. But I am a big Elvis fan. I'm a big Austin Butler fan, and I'm a big Baz Luhrmann fan. So obviously that's going to win, you know. That's just such a great movie. And then the Avatar movies, just, you know, the technology of those movies are unthinkable. Like, just, my God, you know, and going back to like True Lies and all that, these are just the best movies. I mean, obviously I'm a James Cameron fan. Clearly, I don't know who isn't, but these movies were just amazing. Bill Paxton, I mean, he was just gold in that. I mean, in every movie, weird science, and I mean, I can go on, but I mean, he's just so. And if you know the backstory of like how they met James Cameron and Bill Paxton when he was working for Roger Corman, I mean, these are the stories that are so fascinating that it makes you love the business even more. And you just can't help but gravitate towards wanting to be part of that. It's just so fun and so cool. And so I just love it. I respect it. And I know there's a lot of criticism, negative criticism, but there's also good positive criticism. And there's 8 billion people in the world and still growing. So there's a lot of people out there to see your content. And I hate the word content, but to see your movies. But I say that respectfully because there are people who just want to make a documentary, or they want to make an educational film, or they want to make commercials. I mean, some of the really good directors are commercial directors, and like I used to love watching commercials. I mean, those were like the 30-second short films. Those were the most fun, but sometimes they're so good that I don't know what the product is because I get so into the commercial. Yeah. And what's funny, just a really quick story, I have to give a plug to my friend. He's an actor, Dan Jablons, Jablons, if I say it right. Anyways, one day, this was like 8, 9, 10 years ago, I'm sitting at a Starbucks, my baby's in a stroller, I'm just sitting there having a little cappuccino, and I see there's nobody else in Starbucks, and I see this one guy, older gentleman with curly hair and glasses, sitting there just working, and I said, holy is that the guy from the Little Caesars commercial? And he's just right there. And I said, excuse me, were you in the Little Caesars commercial? He's like, yeah, that's me. I said, oh my God. I said, I love you. Every time that commercial comes on, I like stop what I'm doing and I watch that commercial. And the funny thing, if you guys can ever YouTube this commercial, this guy, Dan, is doing nothing. All he is doing in the whole commercial is holding the phone, and he has a deadpan face like this. He's on hold to order pizza, and the song is, we're wasting your life away, wasting your life away. And then the wife opens the door and says, hey, honey, you want Little Caesars? And that's the commercial. But the look on this guy's face with his hair and the way they dressed him, he's just the office guy. The office guy, the one with the stapler. He always has to have a stapler in the office. He's that guy, and you just love him. And I ended up he's a good friend now. I look to cast him in anything that I can because I would see all his other commercials and I would say, Dan, you got to be careful because I barely know the products because we get so taken in by the commercials. He did a commercial, I think it was for iPhone or something, with the Face ID. And the commercial starts off with, like a game of chess. They're sitting on a stage. There's a whole audience watching, but the guy has to know his password. And so the camera zoomed in on him and he's sweating like you think it's like a major tournament chess game, but it's just him having to know his password to whatever it was, but he can't. So the advertisement is Apple Face ID, the phone. And Dan's in the commercial, and I'm like, these commercials sometimes are so good that I don't even know what the product is, so be careful commercials if they're too good. But Dan, fantastic actor. I want him in everything. He just does really well, but he's such a professional, for the actors out there. He sits there at Starbucks. He's sitting there. He's networking. He checks in with me every 2, 3, 4 months. Hey, Michelle, just letting you know I was on this show and that show. I'm just doing this. And he's, what is it called? Networking. I guess networking is the word, but follow up. I'm sorry, following up. Follow up, guys. This is something I used to be very good at. I'm not as good anymore because I multitask a little more than I think a human should, because now it cuts into the sleep. I don't sleep 8 hours anymore. But following up, a Christmas email or, a happy holidays email or, to the one guy who you met a long time ago, one of the guys who I used to always just check in with, even though I'm nowhere near what he was doing, was the late John Landau, the producer of Titanic and Avatar and executive at 20th Century Fox at the time. He was James Cameron's partner, and he died not so long ago. But when I first met him but David Black and we met him together Every time I could, I would just send a Christmas card to Lightstorm or whatever. And the guy remembered my name. I would show up on the lot for something else and, hi, Mr. Landau. Hi, Michelle. Oh my God. And I would say, hi, Michelle. I know. I just said, hi, Michelle. It's like, oh my God, you're John Landau, And one of the best pictures I have, it's taken by David Black. It's a picture of me and Mr. John Landau. And one of the best pictures David Black has, it's him with his arms around James Cameron on one side and John Landau on the other. And I took that picture. I was the photographer, and it was a very special time. It was when it was the premiere of Avatar. So follow up, guys, if you can find a system. I have my list here. It's a bit sloppy of a list, but I have a list with all the companies, and I make a note like every 2 weeks, just follow up with them, for distribution. Have you been able to watch the film? Can I send you a screener again? So for my field, that follow up is important. But for any industry in any field, network and follow up. Put yourself at the right place at the right time. Go to a film festival. Go to a film market. Have business cards. I get it. Some people are like, Michelle, we don't need that anymore. We have phones. Do you know how many times people have put their contact info in my phone and I can't remember their name? And I'm like, I have 4,000 contacts. How am I going to find the guy I just spoke to? So I just wish I had a business card. So, I still have all my business cards, and, I still do it a little bit of the old school way, which is helpful. And follow up is a great way to keep those relationships. So, okay, I promise now I can let you guys go. I did this to Lucas actually on our original call. It was more of like, hey, Lucas, you want chocolate or vanilla? And then like 2 hours later, yeah. So in that Darth Vader moment, and it's like Lucas is like, yeah, Michelle, let's just do a podcast, and you could say it all there.
Well, I mean, I honestly think it worked much better than I thought. And, who wouldn't want to be listening to this? Anyone that is aspiring to do anything. And especially like we're discussing, the industry, the film industry, entertainment industry, all this is just invaluable. Like every person has their ways of going about business and how to, achieve your goals. There's no set way. There's no step by step. Everything just kind of happens. And I mean, Michelle, like you're a perfect example of that. Exactly. It's just so organic, and it's not like what you intended to do. And look at you this 20 some years later and just accomplishing all these amazing things.
Thank you. Yeah, it did happen very naturally. Yeah, it never occurred to me that I would be in the film business, but there were signs. And I'll tell you what those signs were. I have 4 siblings. And one of the things they would always, tease me, make fun of me, cuss me out over at the house, Mom, Michelle has the camera again. Mom, Michelle's filming again. I mean, I even have it on video. Michelle, what are you filming this for? It's Thanksgiving dinner. Like, nobody's going to care. And now when they go back and they look at the video,
they care. Yeah.
Whenever it was that I was able to captivate easy without, with a camcorder or anything, now they're like, oh my God, these videos are so special. And I mean, my whole kid, my kid, I have a whole, like I've filmed his whole life. And even at the Apple store, they're like, you have how many videos? Like 200,000, whatever. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm a mom, and then I take some of those special moments. And now that he's older, and then I'll show my family an old video of, him speaking his first words. They're like, oh my God, he was so little. He was so cute. It's like capturing life, man. That's special. So those were the red flags, I guess you want to call it, of me as a child. Like anytime I can have disposable cameras or any type of camera, I was just capturing everything, capturing life. I mean, I still have one of my favorite classes in high school was photography. And there was something about the dark room that, God, it sounds kind of weird, but I have that nostalgia for the scent of the chemicals. And he developed the paper. And the very first assignment we had, I think I was a sophomore, the very first assignment we had was to take photography paper. Actually, no, strike that. The very first assignment was to make a camera. And we get a little cardboard box and this aluminum foil, and we pinch a hole, and we put the little paper inside, and it's all covered in aluminum foil. And, you let the exposure run, you move your aluminum foil from the little pinhole for a certain amount of time to expose. And that was my very first thing. How old are we in sophomore year? I was probably like 13 years old. Then the next assignment was you take just a piece of photography paper like that size, and then you just start putting things like, here, I'll put like, here, a little toy. I'll put, the little Eiffel Tower, and I'll put the Eiffel Tower. And then I started getting creative over my classmates, and I started putting like yarn thread to make an ocean. And then I took a pencil and I shaded I penciled in parts of it on a piece of paper, and I placed it on the photo paper, and then I expose it for a number of minutes or seconds, I don't remember, and then I start processing it. I still have that somewhere buried here, but it came out to be a little flamingo on an island with the sunshine, and that was the first taste of photography. And I started taking pictures. I think I was 13. I started taking some pictures, and the teacher noticed some of my work. And I guess what happened was another boy in class took my work and claimed it to be his to meet the due date. And he got in trouble because the teacher recognized my work. And I was very quiet in class. And then one day the teacher asked me if I would be willing to release the rights of my homework. And I thought, yeah, I don't even know what that means, but okay. And so my dad signs off on it. I sign off on it. And next thing I know, one of my pictures was used in a pamphlet in a brochure for the city. Like some like kids, join this camp. And it was just me taking pictures with the school camera of things. And I just loved capturing life. The school provided the camera. And then a couple of my other works ended up in this art exhibit show, which this was all through my teacher. And so that was really the first taste, if you want to call it the red flag, of my joy in capturing life. And, just film everything, guys. Now there's no excuse. You have a camera phone. Film everything. Make videos, make content, make a YouTube. What is it called? The Instagram. These are all free now, and you that's just the first steps of it. But I never thought about it really until one day I realized, wait, I've always been this way. I've always wanted to capture life and tell a story. And we should all be able to tell a story. Now we have a way in life to, when we leave this earth and we go to a galaxy far, far away, there's still something of us left here, which is, a little film of us or a movie or whatever. But yeah, there's always the most elementary steps that take you. James Cameron wasn't James Cameron that we know, but he was always still Jim as a kid. And if you hear his childhood stories, it was always there. It was always in him. It was always in him. He just wanted to do it. And then he saw Star Wars and said, what the f-? And he goes, I'm quitting my truck driving job. And I'm going to be a filmmaker. And some guy named George Lucas made this movie that Jim was dreaming of. Hopefully the listeners will get something out of it. And
I'm sure they will.
And I hope it's helpful. I hope it's fun and it's helpful, but it's a fun journey too,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. As people can tell, we're very passionate about movies and we can talk for hours about this stuff. But yeah, I appreciate Michelle for coming on and, imparting some knowledge on and your experience in the industry is very much appreciated. I'm sure that listeners will take an interest and yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Lucas.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything.
Yeah. Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell to be alerted when we have another video coming out. And until next time. All right, everybody, take care and have a good one. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.